Hello, 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 hello. Voice is coming back. Voice is coming back. I keep saying it every day. It's going to happen. It's almost there. Anyway, how you doing? Good to see everybody. What am I going to talk about today? I've got a few things I want to talk about. Firstly, I want to talk about this book. It's called Transformation of America: The True Life Story of a CIA Mind Control Slave by Kathy O'Brien with Mark Phillips. This is essential reading, guys. If you've not read this, read it. This one got signed by Kathy O'Brien. It was one of the greatest honors of my life to share a stage with Kathy in America, and then I went up to Lewis Herms and I said, "I'd really like Kathy to hear my poem, 'We See You,'" and he said, "Don't worry, I'll sort it out." So I got Kathy to watch "We See You" on stage and gave her a big hug. And she said, "I write poetry too." And I was like, brilliant. So hopefully I'm going to get Kathy on the show. I first read this I think it was about 10 years ago. It's essential reading, essential. But if you don't like reading, then I highly recommend this, because I watched this last night. I'm just going to share the screen with you. Not going to mention the name of it, but you should be able to see the screen now. Trance.movie. This is an extraordinary documentary. I highly, highly recommend you go and watch it. And please buy it or rent it or get the DVD, because Kathy needs as much support as possible. She's one of the bravest people on the planet. You know, when you watch this and understand the level that this stuff goes to, you'll understand. And that's why I called this live, Don't Forget About the Children. And what do I mean by that? Well, whilst I was in the States, Lewis Herms actually got up on stage and said, quite provocatively, but I think interestingly, Lewis can be provocative, by the way. He looks mild-mannered, but don't fuck with Lewis Herms. And he said a lot of the truthers have forgotten about the children, and they kind of avoid the subject. And I thought that was a very interesting point. I actually asked on Telegram this morning whether you guys thought we'd forgotten the children. And I'm just going to pull up Telegram, because it is extremely interesting and important that we don't forget the children. So let me just see if I can show you Telegram. Add it to stream. Okay, so here's Telegram. By the way, that post I just made, if you're not on my Telegram channel, the link's below this video. And if you're on my email list, the link's below this video to get on my email list. There's a link to the Telegram channel there. So it's the best, there's a lot of action. It cracks me up. Yesterday, I did a first video back since I've been to Morocco, America, Manchester, Morocco again. Basically been 9 weeks on the road, and people going, "Oh, I've missed you. Well, go to Telegram, subscribe to Rumble, subscribe to BitChute, go to themarkatwoodshow.com. All content is there. But daily, I'm on Telegram daily, even when I'm having a rest. I'm supposed to be having a rest this week, and I'm still busy on Telegram. But this post here, I'm digressing slightly, the one that's from the Tartarian History channel. That video there is Donald Marshall. If you've not heard of Donald Marshall, go and watch his stuff. It's extraordinary. It's extraordinary stuff. And I'd love to speak. If anybody knows how I can get hold of Donald Marshall, let me know, because I first came across his story 4 or 5 years ago, and it's mind-blowing. And go and listen to that video. But in Telegram, I asked a few questions this morning. Do you think truthers have forgotten about the children? And you guys, 75% of you say no, 25% say yes. There's only 351 votes there. But, don't forget, Telegram is a little bit of an echo chamber. And I haven't forgotten about the children, hopefully. And maybe you guys are in that zone. But I thought Lewis brought up an interesting point. And which is why he has people like Kathy O'Brien on the Truth Tour, which was just amazing. So let me just go through here. So that, if you're not on Telegram, I'm asking questions here just because I want to find out what you guys are thinking. It's like a barometer. I'm very pleased to see that 90% of you think that nothing can stop what is coming. You still believe that, although some of you don't know what's coming. I don't think it will do. This was interesting. Tucker Carlson, here. In the highest levels of politics and finance, there is a shadowy cabal of pedos that use their power to hide the crimes they commit against children. That people think that sounds pretty far out to us, too dark and strange to be true. They do. You know, this the biggest problem I've had since I really started being vocal about this stuff online about 10 years ago on Facebook. I kept getting told off. Don't talk about that. Don't talk about anything else, but don't talk about that. And I was like, what? We need to talk about this. You know, it's the most. What do you guys think in the comments? Um, and this is the thing. I put this poll up here. I got told I was in a cult recently by a very close family member, which is, I know a lot of you have had that. Well, 56% of you say you have, 44% say no, 300 votes. Again, it's just indicative. But it is extremely tiresome because even when I was on tour in the States, I kept making the point that, a rough estimate is that 22,000 children every single day disappear. Every day. For at least the last 80 years. That's a billion children. It's the biggest industry on the planet that nobody knows about. And the reason nobody can believe it is because we can't believe that humans would do that. And your answer's in that statement. They're not human. The crimes are beyond belief. And I just think it's an important thing to bring up. I'm just going to check your comments now. See what you guys are saying. Yeah. So there's lots of mornings here. Morning, everybody. Grand rising. I still can't say it with any conviction. Because it's all about intention. If you know that good morning means, you're morning at awake, then you take the power away from it. That's how the magic works. So I'll still say good morning. Yes, Stu, in a good way. I'll be in touch with you soon. Thanks to everybody that came to Manchester, by the way. I haven't actually had a chance to talk about that really, because I've been so I just came from the States, Manchester, and then the Sahara. Manchester was an amazing event. The video of that whole event is being edited now and will be out in the next couple of weeks. So I'll let you know. Jill Warsaw, Grand Rising, Mark. I'm trying my best, Jill. Good morning. Can you imagine that? Robin Williams doing the remake of Good Morning Vietnam. Grand Rising Vietnam! Kind of works, actually. Maybe that would work. The arcade, Zal Moxis, the Arcade channel asserts the detonations we were picking up. Yeah, okay. Proof on the child rescues. Yeah, I'd like to see that. Okay, so there's just lots of good mornings here. So I'm going to bring on a special guest now, who's been on the channel before, and is going to tell me off because I haven't finished reading her book. And that's the other thing. I've got. I'll just tell you this quick story. I just want to say thank you to Susan Gilham for sending me these books from Australia. Jake and the Crystalline Grid, The Guardian Goddess, Eleanor. Trust me. Do you know how many books I've got here? I'm one man. I can't read them all. I just can't. I haven't got the time. But I'll do my best, Susan. Thank you for sending those. I've also got this book here, James Redfield, The Secret of Shambhala, In Search of the 11th Insight, which is one in the sequence following the Celestine prophecy. And I'll just tell you this story quickly before I bring my guest on. When I was in the States, I had one of those mornings. I was with Janine and the other guys on the tour, including Bruce Poppy. I'm going to be on his show tomorrow, and his lovely wife. And we were, Natalie, and we're having this really strange morning. When all these, basically it was on this reservation, and there was a concrete factory that was being protested against, and we met the protesters, and they were like, there's a concrete factory being built here. I said, I might be able to help you. There's a bunch of people behind me that have millions of followers. Come and say hello. And then she recognized Janine, and it was all boom, boom, boom. And then we moved on, and this Native American woman came up to me in a gas station and basically said, do you want to trade money for gas? And then she gave me, I just said, look, take some money. And then she goes, no, you have to trade. And then she gave me this beautiful handmade thing. She said, this is a blessing. And she gave me a blessing right there in the gas station. And it was really like amazing. And it turns out she was She was the woman who single-handedly, I might have told this story on the channel before, but bear with me. Single-handedly, 25 years ago, stopped a nuclear dump being built on the reservation. Then I stopped at another gas station, picked somebody else up, and this is all before 10 a.m. And I was stood there, took my shoes off, and was grounding on the grass. And another Native American woman came up to me and started talking to me about the fact that her people say we are walking through a dream we've already had. And I said, like deja vu. She went, exactly. And then she walked off. And then Janine walked past, and then these ravens flew past. And I was like, and there was a load of other things. I got in the back of the car and I said, this morning's been like the Celestine prophecy. And they all laughed. And then I got a text 10 minutes later from Yetta in the States, a healer that I've talked about before. Yetta, I must get you on the show. And Yetta sent me a message going, oh, by the way, Mark, my friend James Redfield would like to talk to you. I was like, are you joking me? And that's the way it goes, you know. It is the Celestine prophecy. Everybody should read the Celestine prophecy. I first got it 28 years ago, handed to me by an artist in Florida. And I started rereading it the other night and realized I remembered it all. So I've moved on to The Secret of Shambhala because I want to do more research before I speak to James. Hopefully I get to speak to James Redfield, which would be amazing because he was way ahead of his time. Because when you read the first couple of chapters of the Celestine prophecy, you're like, well, that's kind of the last 2 years, isn't it? It's actually the last 40, 50 years. But anyway, time for guest time. So let's just get her on. Hi, Gloria.
Hey,
How's it
how are
going?
you?
Well, I just rambled for 10 minutes, which is nice. I've missed live rambling on YouTube.
Yes.
Gloria, for those of you who can't remember you or haven't seen you on my channel, they've probably seen you somewhere else. Just give us a quick intro to your story and where you're at and what you're trying to achieve.
Okay, cool. Thanks. Hey, so my story is pretty unusual, but ties in a lot, I think, with what Mark you do on the show. So we go back to the children, and I was a child born into child sex slavery. So for the first 16 years of my life, I was trained by my father and his mother and one of his sisters to be the best child sex worker I could be. So from the age of 5, that was happening. My father leased me out to many gangs and the, I don't know, Freemasons group, and that was a regular occurrence. As well as that, there were over 100 pornographic movies made, of which I featured in. Apparently, they're in the States. But wait, there's more. I also ended up having many forced abortions on me as I grew older. And I was leased out of a nightclub in our red light district where I was chained to a bed in a room from the age of 11. So, frankly, quite a miracle I'm here. And I think, I know my purpose actually, Mark, is to use my life story to actually help other survivors through some healing and recovery.
Yeah, and I joked about not reading your book. I read about the first 5, 6 chapters, and it's very, very powerful. And then I went on my travels, and I think I took it with me to the States, but I didn't get a minute, not literally a minute.
That's
So I'm going to finish it, but it is incredible. You know, when I meet survivors like you, it's incredibly humbling. I mean, I suffered very mild sexual abuse. My father was raped. My mother had sexual abuse. You know, it's everywhere and it's every level in
yeah,
society, and it's the glue that binds society together. If you Kathy O'Brien's story, she talks about the fact that her father was broke. He came from a multi-generational line of satanic abuse, and then she was sold by him into the elite circles, and he became a multimillionaire. And if you've ever been through life wondering how did that idiot become a multimillionaire, that's probably the answer.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's the strength. It's like, how did that idiot become Chancellor of the Exchequer? I mean, or Prime Minister? I mean, we're surrounded. I used to say, even when I was a kid, I used to say, if the aliens come down and say, take me to your leader, I'd be like, oh shit, it's a bit embarrassing because they're all fucking idiots. And it is embarrassing, the leaders that we've had throughout our lifetime. I mean, Ted Heath was named by David Icke in The Biggest Secret, which I got over here, in '98 as a paedophile. So was Prince Philip. So was Jimmy Savile. And they never took him to court.
Yeah.
Why? Because he was right. And, Ted Heath, for those of you who don't know, was Prime Minister when I was a kid in the UK. And they're all the same. Tony Blair's real name is Miranda,
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
But you're right about the money, honey. I know that rhymes. Bad joke. But you're right about the money.
We need jokes in this. You got to keep.
We've got to keep it going.
Got it.
So look, my father was a prolific pedophile, and he made so much money out of me, Mark, through who he leased me to, that he managed to get one of the first 4 Pontiacs imported into New Zealand. And, I guess if you said to me, what was your relationship like with your father? I can honestly say, hand on heart, never one time did we ever have a conversation. The only time my father ever spoke to me was to tell me to act more, to become more sexually alluring, or to try and find a new trick to get more money. So I never grew up having a conversation with my father ever. There was no protection. So father, not father, really. And I think, it's an incredible story, and people say, how is it even possible? Well, it's possible because it's intergenerational, and I think for my grandmother, you think about what grandmothers epitomize. It's love, nurturing, spoiling. My grandmother was just an evil witch, and how could she even think of training a small, vulnerable blood relative, her precious granddaughter, into doing what I had to do? So, look, did it affect me and how I saw the world? 100%. Was I completely, unwell mentally? Yes, I was. It's taken decades and decades, and you've got the memoir, and the second book I have released this year is Flight Path to Healing, because for all the people Mark, and all the wonderful survivors in the world, there are many of us, and you know what? There is a way through, and I just think I'm just here to shine light on this and try and give back with love and humility. That's it.
Well, thank God, because you're surrounded by angels, as your first book discusses. And your grandmother kind of conned you, didn't she? You thought you were going into the loving arms of a grandmother, and then it dawned on you, that's not exactly what's going on. Do you think
what's really interesting, Mark? Oh, sorry, I'm cutting you off there.
Okay.
Do you know what's really interesting? I hadn't realized it until I did a recent interview, and it was this. My first book is on Angel's Wings, my flight from trauma to grace. My second book is Flight Path to Healing, and someone interviewed me recently and said, do you realize both those books have flight in them? Why have they flight in them? And you know why, Mark, and your beautiful audience? Because I was trapped. I was trapped.
That's, as you say that, I'm getting the goosebumps, and I'm starting to wonder about locked up memories. There's my escape from my village was I saw a Harrier jet go past the window, and I was like, that's my way out. So I became a pilot. It was
Yes.
everything's flights related. All my dreams as a kid were
Yes.
walking down a um, avenue of trees and then just taking off. And
Yeah.
and it's and I love getting on planes now. And in fact,
Yeah.
my daughter's learning to fly locally. It's so interesting that. Do you think that's a memory that we have of? I think it's a memory of flying. I think we when our DNA is activated back to where it should be, we got that ability.
100%. And, I sometimes wake up in the morning and think, whoa, I've had a wonderful, I've been flying around the place. But I'm very blessed to have angels around me. And I think, how lucky am I really, Mark, to be able to give back, because not everyone's able to. This is pretty
Well,
heavy, eh?
it's extraordinary that you got through this, and I've had the privilege of speaking to a few other people that have, and meeting Kathy. Kathy talks about the fact that at the age of 30 in that system, which is global, they get sacrificed, and she got saved from that and the reason they get sacrificed at 30 is because that's when the awakening happens, when there's a change in the chemical structure, and some of these compartmentalized memories become unlocked, and then they
Yes.
start to remember stuff. So they don't want that. So, and then
Mm.
she got saved by a guy called Mark Phillips, who was working in the three-letter agencies, and was horrified at what he saw, and decided to do something. And it's just amazing that people have got through and survived and slipped through the net, because I've experienced that. There's gangs of Satanists that gang up on you. My friend in Morocco, Hope, who was on the channel a couple of weeks ago making the Organite, I witnessed her go through hell with trolls and death threats and hate because she was talking about the Hampstead kids
Yeah.
years ago. And it takes enormous backbone to discuss it, even if you've not been through it. But if you've been through it, to talk about it is even more extraordinary. And you definitely are surrounded by angels. And if you'd said that to me, if I'd read your book or met you through, I'd have, the book would have hit me. But the angels thing is something I want to talk about the angels for a bit, because I first really started realizing angels were real like 10 years ago, I think. There was a book written by a French journalist, I think, like an essay into the existence of angels or something like that. My ex-wife found this book and read it and started reading it, and I was skeptical. And then the things I've learned about angels since, and the communications I've had with angels since, and the protection I've had from angels since, has been extraordinary. I'm writing a book, and I'm going to talk about this in there because my personal experiences are they're so powerful that you can't deny them. And I think people like you have been protected specifically for this time, and the fact that I had to shift my language from saying victim to survivor, but
Yeah.
over the last couple of years, because I always said victim, and then I meet people like I'm like, no, not just a survivor, a wonderful, powerful survivor who is doing something really, really positive, because there's still hundreds of millions, if not billions, of survivors out there that are still like this, because they're so scared of
Yeah.
coming out with their story. Let's talk about the angels. When did the angels come to you, and what's your experience of them in a literal sense?
Yeah, and look, there's so many things you're saying. Mark, it's great. Look, the angels, very grateful to them, because they did save my life many times over. But I first met them when I was a toddler, and I was being, horrendously physically abused and thrown into an apple crate by my father, and then he nailed another one on the top. And this is back in the day. You might be a bit young for this, my friend, but it was back in the day when apple crates, the old-fashioned apple crates, and they had slats between them.
Yeah.
But anyway, and so he put me in there, and he nailed one on top, and I was just beyond terrified and traumatized, and he left me there with the garage door down, and I was scared. And anyway, I don't know, I just went into a bit of shock or trauma, and I looked out of the corner of my eye because I saw something. And do you know what it was, Mark? It was these little baby angels, and they were playing, and they kind of reached out and they wanted me to play, and it was all done without words, but it was an intuitive play and connection. And I just looked at them, and I just wanted to be them, and I wanted to be with them. And then when I was finally released from the box in the garage in the dark, I scampered inside, really excited because I had little angels to talk about. But they were with me throughout my 16 years, and they were always there in my darkest moments, and makes me feel a bit emotional. Yeah.
That's okay. You know what hit me?
My life. Yeah.
Well, you know what hit me as you were talking is that you're an angel.
Oh,
No, no, I mean literally. I think you're an angel that volunteered to come through this to do this. This has struck me recently about a lot of us.
wow.
Making me emotional now.
Well, it's just they're really so beautiful and so powerful, and I really can't overstate it. I don't think I'd be here if I hadn't had them.
I definitely wouldn't be.
No.
Yeah, so you know, if you're watching this and you're not sure about the existence of angels, what advice would you give to people to connect? Because everybody's got access because they just want to help and they want to protect and they want to
Yeah.
look out. But we have free will here, so
Yeah.
you know, this period of time is really about learning about these connections and the reality of these things. Would you agree with that?
I think so. Look, at the end of the day, in this beautiful book I've written, this Flight Path to Healing, I'll talk to you about it later, but it's all full of that. You know, the answer, beautiful survivors across the world, the answer lies within. And our angels, they're there. And all we have to do is reach back in. You know, so often we look outside ourselves, Mark, don't we? And my heartfelt, humble advice is stop looking outside of yourself. Go within. That's where the gold is and the beauty is. And yeah.
Yeah, I'm getting whoa, getting the big truth
Oh,
bumps. I totally agree with that, but I went through a process of people telling me that, yeah, I think I just said that at the beginning. People telling me not to talk about this kind of thing. My view is that we all have to face this. So we have to look outside ourselves to see what is actually been happening, and then the journey within at the same time. I think, and you know, personally, my visions are getting stronger and stronger and stronger, and you know, pineal gland's gone crazy, and I'm seeing some amazing,
yeah.
amazing stuff which I'll probably start sharing soon because it's just getting louder and louder and louder, which is wonderful. But in order, you know, to be practical for anybody watching this who's like, well, I've never spoken to an angel, I've never seen an angel, I've never heard an angel. How can somebody get in touch with them?
Here's the number. No.
Dial 1-800-ANGEL.
$1.99 per minute. No.
Free consultation.
All you do all you do is you just simply close your eyes, get into a as deep a state as you can. For some of us, it might take
Not a deep state though.
no, not no. But a state where you can feel relaxed and not necessarily noticing so much outside noises, and then just say, can you send me a sign? Can you send me something? And what you might find is, I remember years ago, because I wanted to test them, Mark, and I remember years ago, I thought, right, I'm going to imagine, I want a butterfly. If you guys really are real, I want proof, and I want living proof. So, and then you let it go. So the next step is let go of what you've just intended and you're searching for. Go about your business. Now, I do like to exaggerate me, but can I tell you this? This is true. A few days later, I'm walking along the road and this butterfly comes out and actually almost hit me in the face. And I thought, whoa, this stuff it works, it's real. So look, sometimes I think, and you'll have seen this, Mark, many times over, we overcomplicate things, we make things so friggin' difficult. They don't have to be. Just go within quietly and ask for a sign. And you'll get to a point where I go to sleep at night and I'm downloaded all the time. I wake up in the night saying the words that they're giving me to share. So, Mark, I've probably got another 3 books for you to read.
Oh yeah, yeah, I'm sure you have.
Exciting.
I just need to get in my time machine, go back 10 years, and then catch up on everything. And then I'll go, I've read them all.
That's the one. But yeah, so look, the beauty lies within the angelic field is actually us. We just forgot it. We are the angelic field.
Yeah. Well, I think I wrote a blog post about 8 years ago called Synchronicity and the Caterpillar, because back then I was noticing synchronicities everywhere. Somebody told me recently synchronicities don't exist because they're just cause and effect, but you don't know the cause yet, which is an interesting thing I need to explore a bit more. So that's a note to myself. But anyway, synchronicities were happening all the time. Numbers were all happening all the time. You can't ignore them. And what happened with me is I just I'm now in a state where I'm that is switched on. So I'm mindful all the time.
Yeah.
So, about 2 weeks ago, I was first on the scene at a road traffic accident in Morocco, and as soon as I drove, I was about a minute behind this car that had a crash with a motorbike, and as soon as I drove past, I could see the guy was dead. I knew the guy was dead. I knew immediately, and I got out of the car. I was first on the scene with a couple of other people, and whilst we were, it was a shocking situation, but there were these 2 birds that just appeared. And they were just by the roadside, and it was very prominent. And I was with Lucy Davis, and we both noticed this bird, and we had to look the bird up, because what's the spiritual significance of this bird? And I'm only bringing this up for people watching that it's very powerful when you do, because the signals are so strong. Sometimes when I lived in Morocco about 7 years ago, there was a white dove that literally sat on my bedroom windowsill for 2 weeks, until I finally paid attention and was like, what does this mean? I was going to look it up. And, love or hate Google, there's loads of information out there about the significance of these signs and numbers and animals. I mean, that's, look at Tom Numbers in the last couple of years, blown up because numbers, and people are seeing them everywhere. And you can't ignore these things. And I think that's really the message, is that you've got to pay attention and listen, because, because the noise outside is so great, because it's all distraction. Everything that the dark do is to distract you. And that leads me into this question, because earlier on I made the statement that once, the reason why most people don't believe this stuff, when I say most people, I mean most people won't even look at it, but if you do get them to look at it, they just think you're nuts. I had a friend in the UK, I've been telling him for 20 years about SRA and the trafficking and Jimmy Savile and all of this stuff.
Yeah.
And he was brought up in a kid's home himself and was definitely abused, although he doesn't admit it, or it's been locked away, compartmentalized. And he just turned around and said, "Oh, you're in a cult." This was another question I asked this morning on Telegram. And I'm like, what? What do you mean I'm in a cult? And it's because it's just too much for they can't imagine. So I said they can't imagine another human being doing that to another human being, especially a relative, especially a child, right? Because they would never do it themselves. Or they've blocked it out because it's been done to them and have compartmentalized it. And so the conclusion that I came to quite a while ago is that they're not human. Now, when you talk about your father and your grandmother, I think the question I want to ask is, were they human? Were they reptilian? Were they possessed by demons? Were they just evil? What is it? How did that happen to them?
I'd like to sound really intelligent and knowledgeable, but neither's going to happen. I'm just going to speak from the heart.
Good. That's the best way.
Short answer, my friend, I don't know. I believe there was demonic forces present. I know that whenever I would look up and look my father in the eye, it was too much for him. Same with my grandmother. And I don't know what that means, but you might start getting some truth bumps about that. It was like good versus evil, Daniel versus Goliath, David and Goliath. It's that where there's real truth and there's real light. Light is so much more powerful. And there was something that managed to cut through the demonic energy. But it wasn't a good thing that I did, because then the torture would carry on. There were so many humane things that were done. Mark, I would be tied up, stripped naked, and have a dog collar put around my neck and be led around and not allowed to speak. My only way of communicating was to be a dog, so I could make dog sounds. So when you consider that, that is dehumanizing, yeah? That is torturous, dehumanizing, to the point where I almost began to believe I must be a dog. But the point is that that's not a human being doing that to another human being. Something's taken over, don't you think?
No, I do. And my own experience of my own life is that the whole world has been demonically possessed, and it's a subtle thing, and they're very, very good at finding cracks in your armor. And I think when it comes to multi-generational stuff, they got in a generation previously, and then it's like mining a seam.
Yeah.
They just keep mining that generationally and trying to break. And I think a lot of this time has been, a lot of people that have popped up in the truther world are people that may have had slightly shady backgrounds or done bad things in their past and everything else. So I remember, and when I say truther, I don't just mean, talking about when's Trump coming back. I mean, for me, a truth seeker is a God seeker, because that's what it's been for me. It's been coming back to my creator and remembering who I am, and then sharing that journey with other people to help them do it as well. And, and making mistakes on the way, because we're human. But, I look back on I've had a life review in the last 2 or 3 years. Literally, they have taken me through memories of things that I really regret and wish I hadn't done. And I've had to pull over the car and go, ugh, and go through it and work through it. And, and so a lot of these memories sometimes are things that we repress.
Yeah.
But in my family, I don't think it wasn't intergenerational. There was nothing within my family. There was no abuse within the family. I mean, I know 90% of abuse is within families. All the abuse that I have identified within my family, and I haven't identified all of it, I'm only talking about the things that I know about, came from out externally, which again is the demons coming in through people, because that's what they do. That's the key thing that people need to understand about demons. They come through people, and they come through and they. I've just had a memory then of I was picked for this football team. I was pretty good at football. And we had to go to Norwich, was in East Anglia, in the east of the country. And it was like October and it was really dark. And I remember getting there. And the manager sat, this guy I'd never met before, sat because we'd all come from all over the place. And we'd all been handpicked for this team. And the manager sat there and said, right, lads, because he was from Norwich. He said, right, this is what's going to happen now. If you've got an headache or a broken toe, you come to me. But I make you take your shots down if you do. And I was at the back of the room, turned to this guy that I'd just made friends with, and I went, what did he just say?
Oh, I'm sorry.
He said, he's going to... Do you know what I mean? I mean, you know, pedos when I was a kid, I managed to avoid most of them. You know, there was a guy on the way to school. My mum said, if Bert comes at you and asks you to go and look at his bees, tell him to fuck off and run away, which is what I did every day. You know, I mean, it was like practical advice like that, because everybody knew. And it was like, yeah, he's dodgy. And it was like ridiculous, really, when I look back on it. But I said to my friend, what did he just say? He said, if you've got a headache, he's going to make you take your shorts down. And I was like, well, it's better not get a headache. And if you do, don't go and see him. But what I saw was certain boys that, because we were in this kind of dormitory place, it was like a military base. And certain boys went into his room at night. And those boys had a kind of, I remember thinking at the time, they had a certain vibe about them. And in my work later on in life, when I witnessed the testimonies of 20 or 30 men in their 60s and 70s talking about being abused at a Catholic school when they were children, there was a certain vibe about these guys. And I think what I've pieced together over time is that the demons understand that vibe and they attack it, or they look for the crack. And it's kind of, it's not like a willingness to be abused. It's just they know a way in, right? So they come in, and I think that's what's happened with multi-generational. This is just my theory. The demonics come in to families centuries back, and then it just becomes, and those families get better and better at concealing it, and the victims become younger and younger and younger, and you know, being abused even when they're in the womb. You know, my birth was nearly stopped via what I'd say would be demonic attacks to try and stop me coming into the world. You know, and I think a lot of people watching this channel may have had similar experiences, because, you know, when I first started talking about the stuff I've been talking about on this channel, I went on Charlie Ward's show and I started talking about demons trying to recruit me, because that's my earliest memory. And I remember it vividly. And afterwards I was like, I did this joke in America. I was like, oh no, I'm ruined. I've just been all over the internet talking about demons. But then, you know, thousands of emails saying, yeah, same thing happened to me. And I think it's really, really important to share these experiences and dig into this, because getting the normies to understand this stuff is real. It, you know, mind you, I'm not going to get very far talking about demons because they don't think that's real either.
Yeah, and I think luckily these are growing. Would you agree? The appetite for this is growing.
Yes.
10 years ago, this would not necessarily have been able to be aired. When I first mentioned SRA and the Freemasons and the rituals, you know, that used to happen over certain days like May Day, you know, my family especially decided that I was insane. But we all know that was because they had an agenda. Shut up, never speak of it. So I always look at what people's intent is, and what are we so afraid of, Mark? Because it's coming.
I'm afraid of nothing.
That's right, because you're on the right side of this. But if you're not,
they won't be able to walk down the street. I mean, symbols. This is interesting, Glory, because yes, it is. There is, and we're being softened, or the normies are being softened. I do believe the white hats, whatever you want to call them, are in control of everything, And that's a controversial statement, but I believe it's true because I feel it's true and I know it intuitively. And I noticed yesterday in the Daily Mail, and I put this on the Telegram channel, that they brought an article out saying, look at the hidden symbols in logos. And I was like, oh, interesting. And they were all the ones that they showed were not the ones that were pedo logos, like the
Yeah.
HB ice cream Walls one. That's a pedo logo symbol. All the car companies, all the banks, they're all Saturnic, Saturn, Satan. It's all there, right? And these symbols. So what I thought was really interesting about the Daily Mail article is that they're triggering people to then, because a lot of people will read that and go, oh, that's interesting. Let's go and have a look at the logo for Santander or whatever. And then so the Daily Mail yesterday was acting exactly like a Q post, but in mainstream media. And this is what I'm seeing is that, because the key, you can't shove a book in somebody. Well, I have done this many times. Shove a book in somebody's face and say, read that, because they'll read it and then they'll come back and go, yeah, a load of rubbish. You're like, because you
Mm.
can't force anybody to wake up. They have to do it themselves. So, yeah, but through that process and the process of the last couple of years, I agree with you. There's far more people believing it, and they still try to discredit it all the time, because there's covens out there whose job is to discredit all of this information, all this stuff. So it's a constant. It is a battle. It's a war of attrition, and it's a war of strength, and continuing to stand up. And I see a lot of people fall by the wayside, but I see a lot of people just forging forward in love. You
Never
never
stop.
stop.
You've been born into this, Mark, to do something quite powerful with it. So thank you for keeping on. And it's all quite simple, really. At the end of the day, and this might be a bit controversial, I don't believe our biggest threat are um, the people that like hurting children. I believe our biggest threat are the ones who see it, enable it, and keep quiet around it. In other words, the gatekeepers. Why? Because there are many more of them.
Oh yeah.
Think about it.
Yeah.
For instance, in my family, there was one main abuser, but there were 4 other people that would do anything to stop that ever being talked about, mentioned, etc. So I don't know. I think gatekeepers get away with quite a lot, and even here in our beautiful country, New Zealand, we have such an underbelly, Mark. We have we lead the world with child sexual abuse. Nothing to be proud of. But you see, the silence is deafening, as you have heard me say before, and I'm never going to stop talking. But the interesting thing is, good people that you would meet and like, do not want to discuss this, do not have an appetite to do anything about it apart from, oh, that's terrible, isn't it? So I look at the complacency and to me, and it was actually in the initial quote in my first book that you just about finished, was, all it takes for evil to exist is for good people to do nothing.
Yeah, exactly.
Mm.
Now, saying that, I remember asking my nan. I said, why didn't you do anything about what happened to my dad?
Yeah.
And she was in her 80s, and she said, because we were scared. They were terrified, because this guy was a preacher, and pillar of the community. I mean, that's how they got away with it in Ireland so much, because it was all the priests, and people would protect the priests all the time because they didn't want to be ridiculed. And that's exactly what's happened during COVID.
Yeah.
The amount of people that are complicit. I mean, I wrote to the school here last year and I said, you tried to put masks on my 10-year-old boys. I took the boys out when they did that. I said, this is abuse, and we will not forget. and they didn't even have the balls to reply to me.
No.
And
You're not towing the party line.
it's mind blowing to me.
Mm.
And 17 talks about suicide weekend. They won't be able to walk down the streets. Symbolism will be their downfall, and I believe all of that, because I believe that 17 is coming from God, and that's why this is biblical, the whole thing. So let's talk about your new book. I haven't seen your new book. Have you got it there?
Have I got a treat for you?
Oh,
So we talked
how
about
thick is it? How thick is it? That's a big
it's
one. That's a big
it,
one.
yeah, but guess what? It's actually a guidebook.
Okay.
You see the flight, see how we're
Yeah.
running, we're flying, flight path to healing.
Yeah.
So what it is, it's you can pick it up at any place in the book and you'll get something from it. Don't you love that?
I do.
It's actually every chapter has a theme, and then it has a bit of a download, things that are pertinent to us as survivors, and then it has some exercises for the reader to do, so that it's a working guide. And then it ends with a mantra. And this is not just a mantra. This is actually this is thick, glossy cardboard you can perforate, remove, and put on a fridge or in your car or wherever. And so throughout the book, you've got kind of the mind working on quite a deep level to try and confirm and lock and load the information you're receiving. It has a flight path theme, so every survivor is naturally afforded a boarding pass. Don't you love that?
I do.
Because they couldn't be on the plane without, unfortunately, going through what they did. And we end the book with their own flight path. You got to love my brain, Mark.
I do.
Because I've got a travel itinerary which they fill in, and a destination detail table. And what that encompasses is, throughout the book, as I said, every chapter has a theme. So let's say exercises was one of the things you found appealed to you to help you recover and move through your life in a more healed way. So exercise then becomes part of your destination table, and there's a certain amount of time and periods of time you spend on that. And we end with healing modalities like yoga or group therapy or Reiki or whatever. And then the final thing, this bit made Danny Henderson cry, bless her heart, is
Yeah, love Danny.
I know I've created a passport for survivors. So let me read it to you. And again, it's thick and perforated. This is a child sexual abuse CSA survivor degree. This passport entitles the traveller to live the rest of their life in peace and harmony. This cannot be returned, refunded, or exchanged. The bearer has waited a lifetime for this trip. And and they fill it in and put it up wherever they want it. So very powerful, very humble, but I've been told it's really helpful. And survivors that have read it, and
Where do we get this book, Gloria?
So you can go to gloriamasters.com. It's in all versions. I've been told my voice isn't too bad to listen to.
Yeah, you've got a great voice.
And so I've done an audio version of it.
Good.
I've got it's in ebook. It's
Good.
in paper book, hardback.
Have you done my course?
No, but I just believe in doing that. And so very excited to share that. And hey, if even one survivor can be helped, isn't that just beautiful? So
Yeah, there it is.
there you go. Thank
There it
you.
is. Which airline is that, by the way?
I don't know. I think I just stole the image from somewhere,
No,
but
you didn't steal it.
I borrowed it.
Yeah, that's fine. Oh, that's great.
Yeah, thank you. I, th-
Um,
I think I think you would like it, Mark. You perhaps don't need it as much as some of us, but it's actually, yeah.
no, I think it's really important. And you guys watching this, just share this with anybody you think it could, even if you've not been abused, share it. And also support Gloria's work, because the more she's supported, the more she can do. And it's important. Even if you were not abused, go and read her story. And I can't speak. I'm a little bit. I always get emotional talking about this subject. Obviously,
I know. Bless your heart.
bless your heart. That's.
That's actually not a nice thing to say.
I know it's not. No, I got told that in the States, and it takes me back to one of Timothy Dalton's James Bond films. One of the preachers kept saying, "Bless your heart." License to Kill, I think it was.
But you are such a darling. Thank you for having such a small unknown person like me on your channel. I'm so grateful to you. Thank you.
This channel's all about people like you.
Yeah.
How do we? I do like the expression that I first heard from Esoteric Atlanta, which was, "We're all walking each other home,"
Oh.
and I like that.
Mm.
And where we go, when we go, all is the same thing. And I think if I can just help in any way, get more people to face this subject, deal with this subject, spread the word.
Yeah.
We often think, people often think they're not making a difference, but everybody that I've met, and it's been amazing for me, Gloria, because I've met tens of thousands of people in the last 9 weeks after 2 years sat here talking to a screen. And it's exhausted me. I'm getting back to strength now, but it's like I've been scattered all over the world. But you won't believe how powerful it can be to just talk about this stuff, and how it touches people, and how it helps them, and how it changes their lives. So it's my privilege to speak to you. And I'll give you a big cuddle when I meet you, because you're in that. New Zealand is a very interesting place, and you're there for a reason, obviously.
Yay, lucky me. What was I thinking when I came back down to earth? What?
I think we're all thinking the same thing. But yeah,
What?
you definitely picked one of the toughest missions.
Hey? I chose it. Jeepers, man.
Yeah, well, that's because you could do it.
I thought of you the other day, actually, because I was under attack from, as you know, I get that happen sometimes, and I thought of you, and I thought, God, I'm glad I'm talking to Mark soon, because man, the dark side does like to attack.
Oh, they never stop. They never stop.
Mm.
And it can get very personal.
Yes.
And they know that, and
Yeah.
that's what they're good at. But they're never going to stop me.
Never stop. Stand beside you, Mark.
Yeah, because we've got this, and they're tough. They're tough cookies, but they're over.
Hey, but look, one day I'm going to get over there, and it will be my absolute pleasure to see you face to face and give you a hard time.
Yeah, that'd be good.
That's what we need.
Yeah, we all need that. We all need that. So you guys watch it. Go to glorymasters.com and please support Gloria's work, and share the link out with everybody you can. Use social media. Get it out. Share this video.
Yeah.
Get it on Facebook. Get it on Twitter. Get it everywhere.
Oh,
Because
can I just say one other thing?
Yeah.
Here I am cutting you off again, but hey, that's okay. My fabulous Mr. Mark. I'm running a YouTube channel called Handing the Shame Back.
Yeah.
And that is dedicated 100% to the beautiful male and female survivors across the world. And every week I interview a survivor, and I share blog content and resources that are helpful to us. So yeah, please, if there's any survivors watching and you would like some resource, please go to Hand in the Shame Back.
And it's not about necessarily going online, but if you do feel the need, then you want to be held by somebody who's going to take care of you.
Yeah.
I'm just going to pull that channel up so everybody can see it.
Hand in the Shame Back. And Mark, I'm nearly at 1,000.
Great, excellent. Well, it'll be more after this. Are you guys watching this? Go and subscribe, please.
Yeah.
I'm just going to find your screen so everybody can see it. I will put a link in the comments, and I will edit the description of this after we've done this live to put these links in as well. Here we go.
Gee, there must be something about you, Mark, because I don't often get emotional when I'm being interviewed.
My mum says I'm the only person that can make her laugh and cry.
Yeah.
I seem to have this ability. I don't know why. I don't know.
You've just got it, eh? But yeah, I just try and provide resource and support for survivors.
Yeah, and that's very, very important work that you're doing.
Yeah, thank you.
One day the world shall know. You see, you've had Sean Stone on.
Well, he interviewed me, but unlike you, I've had a few. I've been interviewed by Gareth Ike, and but they want people to join Iconic to see, and this is free. I don't want people to have to pay.
Yeah,
because I think.
Oh, sorry, somebody's ringing me. That's weird. I turned the phone off.
Yeah, turn the phone off. Hey, it's 1:20 here in the morning.
Well, look, thanks for staying up. Thanks everybody for watching. What?
Yeah, no, I wasn't trying to make you feel bad.
Well, I do. I feel really guilty now because it's midday and I'm going for lunch. Yeah, just keep going. Stay in touch, and God bless you, and God bless everybody watching. Thank you very much, and have a wonderful day, and have a wonderful sleep.
Thank you.
And tell those demons to go fuck themselves.
Lots of love to you and your beautiful audience. Thank you.
I'm just wondering, should I play my poem?
Play your poem, and I was going to say to you, let's get a panel discussion going.
Yeah, I'd love to do that.
Yeah.
I was actually thinking that this morning.
Yeah, Kathy O'Brien, blah blah. There's a few of us out there.
Yeah. Sometimes I wonder whether I should play my poems, and then what I realized in the States was loads of people went, "Hey, I didn't know you did that poem." I was like, "Yeah, I did." So I'm gonna play us out with a poem.
Play us out with a poem. Hey, thanks, Mark. Lots of love.
My pleasure. Thank you.
And to your beautiful audience. See you guys.
They're amazing.
Aren't they beautiful?
Oh, they are. Okay, here we go.
We see you. The scales have fallen from our eyes. The veil has drifted down from the sky, meandering firmly, finally revealing your depth of depravity. That's fear you're now feeling. We see you. Your demonic bloodlust laid bare to see, the statue of filth on the BBC, the prince and the madam, the crisper spy, the islands of horrors in the ocean lie. We see you. A billion souls stolen over the years. You hid them deep down to drown their tears. Perfect and innocent, God's own creations, mutilated by your sick machinations. We see you. Vlad the Impaler and his vile descendants, fleeing the palace from the 5D ascendants. The virus distracted, but gave us the time. to peel back the layers of your heinous crimes. We see you. Run, run as fast as you can. Back for more orders from the Phoenician clan. Out of White Rabbit, the looking glass cracked. Tipping point reached, odds against you now stacked. We see you. Pizza and hot dogs, pasta and sauce. Your sickness decoded your lack of remorse. Our slumber is over, our eyes not wide shut. For the children of Haiti, a knife to your gut. We see you. Ascension is powered by the light of the flare. Scramble like rats to the ruins of your lairs. It's over, it's over. Save our children, we cry. Revealed, reviled. It's your soul's time to die. We see you.
Bye, Gloria. Bye, everybody.
Thanks, Mark.